the WrestleHavoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky Duraeus. This is the WrestleHavoc podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky Duraeus, right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from January 17th, 2024. Of course, we can't talk about AEW Dynamite without talking about the main event, that being Samoa Joe versus Hook for the AEW World Championship. That was probably one of the best main events that AEW has ever produced, because at the end of the day, this match not only made Samoa Joe, and it has established Samoa Joe as a dominant champion, but it also made Hook, and it made Hook into a stronger wrestler coming out of that match, even though he lost. And we also know the presumed main event, or the world title match, I should say, for the AEW World Championship at the Revolution pay-per-view, and most likely, it's not official, but most likely from what it looks like, it's going to be a three-way match with Samoa Joe defending his title against Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. Speaking of Revolution, we have a match basically being official. It's not really official, but we already know it's going to be happening. And Roderick Strong is going to go after the International Championship, as Orange Cassidy, of course, will be facing off against Roderick Strong at Revolution. Roderick Strong laid out the challenge on AEW Dynamite. Christian Cage also defends his TNT Championship against the Natural, Dustin Rhodes. And also we had matches like Deonna Purrazzo and Anna Jay. We also had Top Flight taking on a returning Private Party. Of course, Private Party made their return a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite, in the first Dynamite of 2023, and Private Party look phenomenal, man. It's great that Private Party is finally on their own, and they're not doing the shit that they were doing with the Hardys last year, and even before when Mark Quinn got injured. It's great to see Private Party being Private Party, because I was tired of the work that they were doing with the Hardy Boys. But overall, I thought Dynamite this week was a phenomenal show. It was a great show on all levels. There were some things on the show that I didn't like. One thing was Matt Sydal randomly challenging Chris Jericho to a match, which I absolutely did not like whatsoever. But we'll talk about that later on. We had a tag team match, as Orange Cassidy teamed with Trent Beretta, of course, being a part of the trio of the Best Friends, taking on Penta and Komander, so that was a pretty good match as well. The Young Bucks. Yes, the Young Bucks have their new personas. Of course, they're no longer going by Matt and Nick Jackson. They're going by Matthew and Nicholas. I'm going to be talking about the Young Bucks and how the Young Bucks needed this change, because I think we can all agree that the Young Bucks were not on the same level that they were when AEW started, and even before AEW was even a thing. The Young Bucks were ice cold, especially coming out of Brawl Out and throughout the entirety of 2023. So I will be talking about the Young Bucks as well, because that was one of the highlights of this whole show. But nonetheless, I thought Dynamite was a great show, 10 times better than last week's show. Some people liked last week's show. Some people did not like last week's show. I thought last week's show was kind of lame, but it wasn't like a horrible show. Just like there was really nothing of importance when it came to last week's Dynamite show. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed this week's Dynamite, and it was a great show on all levels. Before we get into all this craziness going on AEW Dynamite, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, follow me on social media on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And, of course, if you guys had missed it, WrestleHavoc Daily is up on the channel as well. I talked about Grayson Waller going off on live television at the Sunrise show in Australia. Sunrise is basically a morning news show in Australia. And, of course, Grayson Waller and LA Knight were over there to promote the upcoming Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. And Grayson Waller has ruffled some feathers. I wouldn't necessarily say Grayson Waller has ruffled some feathers, but it looks like the TV personalities and a cameraman ruffled some feathers with Grayson Waller. So if you guys haven't checked out WrestleHavoc Daily, the link will be in the description below. All right, let's get on with AEW Dynamite. The show kicks off with a video package talking about or explaining Samoa Joe and Hook. It's showcasing the upcoming match that we're going to be seeing later on in the show in the main event between Samoa Joe and Hook. It also showed both Hook and Samoa Joe entering the building, really having that big fight feel, and that is exactly what you need on a show like this. In our first match of the evening, we had, of course, the leader of the patriarchy. Yes, the patriarchy, the asshole himself. The current TNT champion, Christian Cage, defending his title against the Natural, Cody Rhodes' brother, Dustin Rhodes. This was a very good match, man. Dustin Rhodes, at his age, doesn't miss a step, even at this point, at this stage in his career. This was a very good opener. Christian Cage, of course, was going to be retaining the TNT Championship. There was no way in hell that Dustin Rhodes was going to win the TNT Championship on this night. And, of course, the crowd was definitely into the match that they were watching. The crowd, one of the highlights of the show was definitely the crowd. The crowd was just off the charts. You guys were insane. But let's go through this match. Both lock up. We get repeated right hands by Christian on Dustin Rhodes. We then get a power slam by Dustin, and then we get a cover and a 1 count. Cage goes to the outside. Dustin pulls Cage to the ring post, and then he sends him to the barricade. He ends up hitting a chop, and then Dustin continues to work on Christian Cage. He sends Cage over the announce table. Dustin goes for a jumping clothesline on Christian Cage, and then he takes Cage back into the ring. Dustin is on the second rope. He hits repeated right hands. Cage is on the top rope, but then Dustin hits a right hand. Cage bumps Dustin headfirst onto the ring post. Cage is then on the top. He hits a dive on the outside on Dustin Rhodes. Once we're back from commercial break, Dustin misses a crossbody, and then Dustin gets taken back into the ring. Cage goes to the top, and then Cage misses the diving headbutt. After that, both men go for a series of exchanges of strikes, and Dustin goes for repeated right hands. We get an inverted atomic drop by Dustin Rhodes. He sends Cage into each corner, and then he follows up with the running bulldog. And then we get a cover and a near fall. We then get a takedown by Dustin. Then we get a slingshot by Christian Cage into the corner, but then Dustin runs into a boot. Cage then runs into a right hand by Dustin. Dustin ends up going for the code red. And then we get a cover and a kick out. Christian Cage then later drives his boot on Dustin Rhodes, and then Cage misses a right hand. Then Cage is on the outside. Dustin tries to go for the tope, but then he runs into a right hand. Cage goes for the whiplash. Cage goes to the top, and then we get a frog splash by Christian Cage. We get a cover and a kick out. Cage then grabs the TNT Championship, and the referee gets distracted when Cage got the TNT title. And then Dustin ended up going for the inside cradle. But before the inside cradle, the referee actually saw Christian Cage, and she grabbed the belt. So Dustin went for the inside cradle. The referee is distracted. Nick Wayne comes in. He helps Cage roll up Dustin, and then we get a near fall. Dustin goes for repeated rights and lefts. Dustin ends up going for another running bulldog. And then Cage is on the top, but he gets caught into the middle rope. Then we get a kick, or aka a low blow, in the corner when the referee was distracted. Dustin goes to the top, and Dustin ends up hitting a superplex off the top. Dustin hangs on, and then Dustin ends up hitting the crossroads on Christian Cage. And we get a cover and a kick out. Nick Wayne then grabs the boot of Dustin. Dustin then grabs Nick Wayne, but Luchasaurus comes in, or I should say Kill Switch, not Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus comes in, Nick Wayne comes in, but then he gets caught. Dustin ends up hitting the Canadian Destroyer on Nick Wayne. Once Cage is in the ring, Cage ends up hitting the spear, of course, the move of Edge, a.k.a. Adam Copeland. After that, he hits the kill switch, and then we get a cover and another kick out by Dustin Rhodes. You gotta love the near falls. And then Cage hits the second kill switch, and then we get a cover, and Christian Cage gets the 1-2-3 and retains the TNT Championship. This was a great opener to kick off AEW Dynamite. Christian Cage, let's be honest with ourselves, is doing the best work of his career, not only as the TNT Champion, but with the new character work that he has been having throughout the past 2 years. And right now, this is the best Christian Cage that we have seen throughout his entire career. And yes, that includes WWE and TNA. Christian Cage is doing absolutely phenomenal. Of course, he has his little faction, the Patriarchy, with, of course, Nick Wayne and Killswitch, and of course Mother Wayne as well. And I do definitely see a future match happening in the future with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Renee Paquette is backstage, and she is interviewing someone who has his eyes set on the AEW World Championship, and someone who, in my opinion, and I guarantee you this, will be the AEW World Champion in 2024. I am talking about whose house? Swerve's house. I'm talking about Swerve Strickland. He says he has his eyes set everywhere. He'd be foolish not to pay attention to the main event tonight. Whether that is Samoa Joe or a Hook that can come out as champion, it doesn't matter. He's been saying that he has been laser focused on going to the AEW World Championship, but he has been preoccupied with the Continental Classic. But no, he didn't win, but out of everybody who was wrestling in the Continental Classic, who were the people talking about the most? Of course, they were talking about Swerve Strickland. Swerve is on the top of everybody's mind. And with that being said, that makes him the most dangerous That makes him the most dangerous man going after the most coveted prize in the industry, the AEW World Championship. Renee Paquette mentions Hangman Adam Page, and then Swerve continues on and he says, like he said, he's got his eyes set everywhere. Hangman is an impeccable in-ring performer. He was also an impeccable AEW World Champion. He watched this man defeat Kenny Omega. He watched him beat Bryan Danielson. He watched him win against guys like Jon Moxley in the Texas Death Match. And up until recently, he watched him run through Roderick Strong, JD Drake, and Claudio Castagnoli. Hell, if God opened up the clouds above us and he came down from the heavens and everybody was challenged to Hangman Page, he thinks Hangman Page will have a chance. But he still couldn't beat Swerve. And he has done it twice. And he has no reason to do it again, and he has nobody to prove it to. Whose house? Swerve's house. Great promo by Swerve Strickland. Of course, later on we had an interview with Hangman Page. Of course, he also has his sights set on the AEW World Championship. Slowly, Hangman Page is looking more like Magnum TA. I always made those comparisons with Hangman Page and Magnum TA, but now, especially with the mustache that Hangman Page is rocking, this man looks like Magnum TA. And that is a good thing, by the way. Chris Jericho is backstage, and he talks about the match that they had at Battle of the Belts / Collision this past Saturday, which I did not watch, by the way. I was busy watching the TNA pay-per-view, and I heard that tag team match was pretty good. Said he wouldn't say that the tag team titles was slipped from him. Takeshita and Hobbs caused both him and Sammy Guevara to lose, and they took what was theirs. Takeshita hit him with a kendo stick, and what does he get for revenge? I don't know. He will seek and destroy his ass. And then Matt Sydal, a.k.a. Evan Bourne, comes in, and Chris Jericho comes up with an Evan Bourne reference. He says he knows him better, he needs to get over this loss, and he needs to get into the ring. Jericho accepts the challenge for Rampage. This was one of the things that I did not like about the show, and we see this almost every week, not only with guys like Chris Jericho, but with champions. You know, there's always a backstage segment, not only on Dynamite, but on Rampage and on Collision. Like, there's always backstage segments with, like, mid-card champions, whether that's, like, you know, either Christian Cage, or not really Christian Cage, because Christian Cage is a focal point, but, like, guys like Orange Cassidy, or, you know, the TBS champion, or the women's champion, whatever, any champion that is not the world champion. Heck, even Eddie Kingston, who is currently the Continental Crown. Look, you know, they always have these segments where, you know, they have a backstage segment and then another guy comes in out of nowhere and they're like, oh yeah, I'll challenge you to a match on Rampage or on Collision, and the match is already set. It's getting a little bit repetitive. Now, granted, this wasn't a champion, but this is Chris Jericho we're talking about. What was the point of Matt Sydal coming in out of nowhere? What does Matt Sydal have to do with Chris Jericho at this point? He has nothing to do with Chris Jericho at all. So why are we having Chris Jericho wrestle Matt Sydal in a random match on a taped Rampage? I think I know why they're putting Chris Jericho on that taped Rampage. Let's be real here. We know why they're putting Chris Jericho on that taped Rampage. It's because, of course, they know Chris Jericho is going to get booed out of the building, so they're going to pipe in that fake crowd noise. AEW does it too. People think AEW does not pipe in crowd noise. Bro, remember when Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello were first together and they were baby faces, and I believe Sammy Guevara was the TNT champion? Bro, they were getting booed out of the building, and they piped in fake crowd noise. AEW, like, don't get it twisted. AEW does the same bullshit that WWE does. Okay? It's not only just a WWE thing. AEW does the exact same thing. They pipe in fake crowd noise. They know Chris Jericho is going to get booed out of the building for obvious reasons. I'm not going to dive deep into that because, again, those are just accusations. They're not legitimate allegations. They're just accusations. But the crowd reads the internet. Everybody knows what's going on with Chris Jericho right now in the internet. So I'm not gonna I'm not going to divulge in that discussion, but, I mean, let's be honest. We know why they're putting Chris Jericho on Rampage. They're putting him on Rampage because it's a taped show, and they know he's gonna get booed out of the building, so they're just gonna edit that out, and they're just gonna be like, yeah, let's pipe in fake crowd noise. That's what they're gonna be doing. But this whole Matt Sydal thing, what is the point of Matt Sydal facing Chris Jericho on a random Rampage on a show that nobody's gonna be watching? I have no idea. I'm not gonna watch. I don't care. That's just me. Moving on. We got Orange Cassidy teaming up with Trent Beretta to take on Penta El Cerro and Komander. This was a really good match, but that was not really the story. The story happened after the match, but let's go through the match first. Penta and Orange start the match. We get a kick to the knee of Orange by Penta. We then get a series of arm drag reversals by both men. Penta counters the Tornado DDT, and then we get a thrust kick by Penta. Penta then runs into Trent Beretta. Trent is the legal man. Komander makes the tag. We get a tope by Komander, and then we get a springboard caught by Trent. Trent then ends up hitting the half and half, and then we get a cover by Orange and a near fall. Once we're back from commercial break, Orange misses a drop kick, and then we get the head scissors by Komander, taking Trent to the outside. Orange comes in. Orange gets kicked into the corner, but then Penta makes the tag. We get a bunch of multiple sling blades by Orange, or on Orange, I should say, by Penta. Penta goes for a series of sling blades. And then we get a kick by Penta. Komander goes for the somersault. And then Penta ends up going for the Made in Japan. We get a cover into near fall. Komander makes the tag. Komander goes to the top, but then Orange enters the fray. We get a tornado DDT by Orange Cassidy on Penta. Trent is the legal man, and then he hits repeated elbows on Komander. We get an overhand shot by Komander. And then we get a roll-up by Komander, and we get a kick out. We get another roll-up, and we get another kick out. We get a chop by Trent Beretta. Trent then runs into an enziguri by Penta. And then we get a step-up Canadian Destroyer on Trent by Penta. Of course, Penta runs over Komander, which was pretty cool to see. It was a step-up Canadian Destroyer. The Canadian Destroyer is by far the greatest finishing move in the history of professional wrestling. Did you guys not know that? Of course, shout out to P.D. Williams. It's a little bit of a tradition right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. Komander does his signature walking of the ropes. I can remember when Komander first made his debut for AEW and like his first few matches in AEW, bro, all Komander would do in his fucking matches he would just walk the ropes, and that is it. Like, he'd do a lot of the other flippy stuff, but like he would just walk the ropes, and sometimes he would botch and it would look so bad. But now he kind of toned it down a bit. Thank God. He toned it down a bit throughout the past couple of months and almost really throughout the past year. And he's not really doing what he used to do. So that is good. But Komander walks the ropes. He hits a high splash, and then we get a cover into near fall when Orange Cassidy makes the save. Penta then gets taken to the outside. We get a kick by Pentagon. After that, Komander goes to the top. He misses the Phoenix Splash, and then we get a knee strike by Trent. Later on, we get the Orange Punch on Komander by Orange, and then we get the Strong Zero, and we get a cover, and Trent and Orange Cassidy get the win. After the match, the Undisputed Kingdom, Roderick Strong and Mike Bennett and Matt Taven come out. Of course, the Kingdom are the current Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. They surround the ring and they surround Best Friends. Both teams face off. Roderick Strong has the mic. He knows, he heard him say to the fans, but he tells him to take his glasses off and look me in the eyes. And he tells Orange. You know how Roderick Strong does his screaming of, whenever he says somebody's name? Orange! Take off your glasses now. And they proceed to threaten Orange Cassidy. And Roderick Strong continues on. He's been saying that Orange Cassidy is a fighting champion. He can take on anyone. He will take on all comers. But tonight, he wrestles in a tag team match and he will not defend the International Championship. Why is that? Is it becoming too much? Does he have too much on the tank? Or is it because the International Championship belongs to me? And he's coming for it, and he can't face it, and he can't face him. Orange tries to snatch the mic from Roderick Strong, but Strong does not let him. And then Strong says he's coming for it, and he is here to make him face it. We get a bunch of shut the fuck up chants by the crowd. Orange says, yes, I will shut him up. It's all right. Orange accepts the challenge, and he says he wants to fight right here, right now. But Strong, being the heel that he is, says, no. We're not going to fight right here, right now. You will wait until March 3rd, live on pay-per-view at Revolution, because I want him for the next 6 weeks to live with the fact that he needs to wake up every day knowing that he is just keeping his title warm for him. So it's technically official. It's not like official, but it's technically official, especially after Roderick Strong laid out the challenge. We're going to be getting Roderick Strong taking on Orange Cassidy for the International Championship at the Revolution pay-per-view at the Greensboro Coliseum March 3rd. Overall, this is a great match for Revolution. Absolutely great match for Revolution. Revolution, let's be honest with ourselves, Revolution is one of those signature AEW pay-per-views that just do not miss. They don't miss. They always hit a home run when it comes to the Revolution pay-per-views. Sometimes it's always the pay-per-view of the year. And the card with Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy, those two men are going to be delivering a banger of a match. If you want to talk about a banger of a match from a technical standpoint and just from a craziness standpoint, Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy is one of those types of matches. And I think 100% Roderick Strong is going to walk out of the Greensboro Coliseum with the International Championship, as he should, considering at this point I'm kind of sick and tired of Orange Cassidy as a champion. Not to say anything against Orange Cassidy, but I want Orange Cassidy to move on from the International Championship. I thought his second run as the International Champion was just, I don't want to say not that good, but just completely uninteresting. At least his first run with the International Championship had some sort of direction behind it, because he has held that international title for a long period of time. You know, he's held that international title for a long period of time, and there was always, that talk within the wrestling community on like, oh shit, who's going to beat Orange Cassidy for that international championship, considering he has held that title for a long period of time. We don't have that discussion right now. Everybody just wants to move on from Orange Cassidy and the international championship. Everybody just wants to have Orange Cassidy just move on to something different. I don't want Orange Cassidy as the international champion anymore. I just don't want him to be the international champion anymore, considering we've already seen that. Granted, he won the title again due to obvious issues regarding injuries and all that stuff, but again, his second run with the international title was just not what it needed to be, because we have already seen what Orange Cassidy was capable of as the international champion in his first run. But Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy for the International Championship at Revolution, that is going to be a great match, and 100% I do see Roderick Strong going over and winning the IC title, or the International title, whatever. I'm calling it the IC title. It's hilarious. We get a backstage interview with Mr. Magnum TA, Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Page comes out, or he's in a backstage interview, of course, with Renee Paquette. He says, if you think the past 5 years you will not find another soul on this planet who cared more about the AEW World Championship than he has. One who treated it with reverence and one who needed it. The thing that he realized about himself was that he wanted to win. He wanted to win the championship, but in 2024, not only does he want to win the championship, he wants to hold it, and he will make it his. And he will put his name on it, and he will hold it for as long as he can. Renee then mentions Swerve Strickland, and Hangman says that Swerve thinks about him a lot, but he doesn't think of Swerve a lot. But if he said that he couldn't beat him, Swerve, he will tell you that that doesn't matter, because he isn't the AEW World Champion. Samoa Joe is the current AEW World Champion, and he will be watching tonight. And maybe if Hook can do it and can beat Samoa Joe, maybe it will be a guy like Hook. God be with you if it is. And that was the promo that Hangman Page got. Bro, Hangman Page right now is on another level. In my opinion, this is the best version of Hangman Page. Everybody talks about 2021, the build-up to his match against Kenny Omega at Full Gear, of course, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. That was great. But this Hangman Page, in my opinion, is phenomenal. And I do believe some point, the rumored match that's going to be taking place at Revolution is a three-way with Joe, Swerve, and Hangman. That is a great match. A great match for the AEW Championship. I don't think Hangman Page is going to win that match. It's either going to be Joe or Swerve. Now, I talked about this on the World's End review. When it comes to Joe being the AEW World Champion, I don't want his title reign to be short, but at the same time, I don't want his title reign to be long. Double or Nothing is the best time, in my opinion, the best time for Samoa Joe to drop the AEW Championship. But if they're going to do it at Revolution, I don't mind that either, because it's going to go to a guy like Swerve Strickland. Now, they're doing a triple threat match. They're doing a three-way match, presumably. I believe Hangman Page could possibly be the guy that gets pinned in the match. The reason why I say that is because you have Samoa Joe. If you're going to have Samoa Joe drop the title within at least, 2 months within his title reign, because granted, he will only hold the title for like 2 months, then you still need to protect Samoa Joe. So he's not going to get pinned whatsoever. You're probably going to pin Hangman Page, but it's not going to matter when you pin Hangman Page because Hangman Page already got pinned before, and not only that, Hangman Page is already a made man. So really, it's kind of a win-win scenario if you do book a three-way. But Hangman Page right now, I love his current character work. Even though it's the same character, Hangman Page, the look, everything, Hangman Page is a badass, and I do believe this year he will be the AEW champion, and he will get a proper title reign that he deserves. Now, granted, I know a lot of people did not like Hangman Page's first AEW title reign because it was kind of overshadowed by a lot of the stuff that CM Punk was doing when he was there during the peak months of AEW when Punk was there. Of course, he was currently feuding with MJF at that time. But I, for one, actually enjoyed Hangman Page's title reign based off of the matches that he has had. I mean, he had two banger matches with Bryan Danielson. One that I attended live. I attended the second match live. I, for one, prefer the first match that both Bryan Danielson and Hangman Page had, but he had matches against Lance Archer. He had a phenomenal match with Adam Cole. I believe he wrestled Takeshita as well. Takeshita was off the charts as well. But again, I thought Hangman Page's AEW title run was great. But I do see why people didn't like. I do see the reason why people didn't like Hangman Page's first AEW title reign. And if you're going to put the belt on Hangman Page later on this year, I wouldn't be against that either because Hangman Page 100% deserves it. Moving on, we have Mark Briscoe. He comes out, of course, South Carolina. What's good, boy? And today he comes to us representing the baddest tag team in the history of this planet, the Briscoe brothers. Tragically, 1 year tonight, his partner and brother passed on in a car accident. And he moved on to the next level of existence. His nieces were in that truck with him, and they were injured severely. But however, God is on the throne, and of course, we are them boys, and we are going nowhere, and he brings out his nieces, and they are looking 100%, which is great to see. After that, they aired a video package of Jay Briscoe, paying tribute to Jay Briscoe, because, of course, yesterday marked a year to the day that we lost Jay Briscoe. I can remember where I was. I was in the living room, and I was on social media, and I found out Jay Briscoe passed away. I was absolutely shocked. Jay Briscoe, I said this a year ago. Jay Briscoe is one of those guys that he was just not a great wrestler and a great tag team wrestler, but he was also a great man outside of the ring. I never got the chance to meet up with Jay Briscoe live, but from a lot of people's, perception and experience, they always thought Jay Briscoe was a great human being. But I did have the privilege to watch the Briscoes live at a GCW show, and, I have footage of Jay doing Jay Driller live. I have footage of, I was at where the aisleway was at the Showboat, and I have a video of both of the Briscoe brothers, Jay going in front, walking back to the curtain, which was awesome. But the Briscoe brothers are one of the best tag teams in the world. Jay Briscoe, man, it sucked that he's gone, but at least we all got to experience him while he was here with us. So yeah, thoughts and prayers go out to the family. Year to the day, man. Year to the day. Jay Briscoe will always be with us. And hats off to AEW, by the way. Hats off to AEW to recognize that and, pay tribute to Jay Briscoe even a year after his passing. That is great to see. All right, moving on. We have one of my favorite things about this whole show, the sit-down interview with the Young Bucks. This is going to be a key talking point in this AEW Dynamite review. The Young Bucks. Yes, the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks are a tag team that get a lot of flack, even to this day, and especially to this day, considering everything that has transpired in AEW throughout the past almost year and a quarter. With CM Punk, Brawl Out, you guys get my drift. Of course, when CM Punk got fired, Matt Jackson famously did the victory lap on Collision, which I thought was a little unprofessional, but they were in Chicago, so they didn't give a damn. And I would have probably done the same thing. But the Young Bucks, I think the Young Bucks are one of those tag teams that get too much, and this was before Brawl Out, even to this day, too much unnecessary flack. And I believe that because they get too much hate, and the hate is ridiculous, in my opinion. I think a lot of the hate that the Young Bucks get are way too unwarranted. And I believe the reason why they get the hate that they do is because of the fact that they made it without the WWE machine. They didn't need the WWE to be successful. They didn't really need the WWE at all. They became millionaires based off of the success that they have had. And, of course, with AEW as well. But without the Young Bucks, AEW does not exist. And, of course, you know, it's not just the Young Bucks. It's Tony Khan. It's Chris Jericho. It's Cody Rhodes. It's the entire elite. It's the entire elite. I know some people are saying, oh, without Cody Rhodes, AEW doesn't exist. Oh, without the Young Bucks, AEW doesn't exist. It's really all parties involved. Without all the parties that were involved, AEW does not exist. So can we stop that discussion, please? Because some of the discussions that I see on social media are absolutely cancerous. But one thing I will say is that throughout 2023, and yes, I know they had the Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club feud, and they did some cool stunts. The Young Bucks were ice cold. The Young Bucks didn't have a sense of direction. Conan said it best on his podcast, Keeping It 100. And I know a lot of people do not like Conan and Disco Inferno, and I do agree. Some of their takes are kind of out there, and they're kind of dumb. But one thing I do agree with Conan was the Young Bucks felt a little bit demotivated. That's what I believe Conan said a couple of months ago. They just don't have that motivation like they used to have, which I 100% agree. You know, when the Young Bucks would come out last year, you know, I was just like, the Young Bucks, great. I've seen their matches. Great, whatever. The Young Bucks didn't have a sense of direction. They were ice cold, especially coming out of Brawl Out. But this new direction with the Young Bucks, this whole sit-down interview with the Young Bucks, this was everything that they needed, in my opinion. You know, if they were just going to come out and just be the Young Bucks, everybody would have seen through their BS. But now, they are full-fledged heels, and they are fully embracing their EVP status. You know, you have some dumbasses on the internet that think the Young Bucks are the pure example of guys like Kevin Nash and, you know, all those guys that like, oh, they love playing politics with everybody else. Bro, the Young Bucks are far from that. If anything, in the beginning days of AEW, in the first few months of AEW, especially when Dynamite first premiered, the Young Bucks were putting other teams over, by the way. They weren't putting themselves over. They were putting other people over. And now, all of a sudden, the Young Bucks get a lot of flack. But the Young Bucks now are fully embracing their executive vice president roles in these new characters. And they no longer go by Matt and Nick Jackson. They go by Nicholas and Matthew Jackson. But let's go ahead with what the Young Bucks said. So we got a sit-down interview with Renee Paquette. Nick Jackson cuts Renee off, and she says, they tell her to show a little bit more respect next time and call them by their God-given names, Nicholas and Matthew. You see, they are the executive vice presidents around here, and it's time to take this job more seriously, which is great because, of course, people, you know, when Punk made his return to the company last year, everybody, you know, wanted the Elite to work with CM Punk, all that stuff. And everybody was like, oh, you know, the Young Bucks are not acting like executive vice presidents. They're not taking their job seriously because they don't want to talk with CM Punk. Well, clearly, they're taking their jobs more seriously, so they're acting like executive vice presidents. And watch, people are going to be complaining because that's what the internet does. Renee mentions the public meltdowns and the rumors. She doesn't mention what specific rumors, but I think it's clear as day we all know what the rumors are. Matt Jackson immediately interrupts, and he was the one that really cut the majority of these promos. He asks if Renee actually wants to go there. He thinks he knows what rumors that she is talking about. You don't believe any of those rumors that are true, right, Renee? You don't believe that they are true? The things that they say about them, the things that they write about us, none of those are true. It's all fake. Let's say hypothetically some of the stuff we read was true. Let me ask you a question. What would you do to protect your own life's work? What would you do to preserve and protect their baby? He knows what he would do. These are all, of course, hypotheticals. Also, what would you be willing to lose? Would you be willing to lose your relationships with your coworkers and your friends? Or your reputation and throw your legacy immediately out the window? If you knew all that in hindsight, you would still do it if it meant that there would be a healthy, sustainable wrestling company called AEW. That's exactly how Matt Jackson stated. He knows his answer. Hell yeah, I would do it. I would go back and do it all over again. And he asks Renee if, she got her paycheck this week. And Matt says, "You're welcome." And Renee asks about Sting. And Matt says when they started AEW, and, Renee, you weren't there, so you don't know, which, pure dickheads. But there was a slogan that said, "Change the world." What they did, they changed the world. They were disruptors. They were rebels. They spat in the face of tradition. And it was out with the old and in with the new. And for a while, they were doing that. They were changing the world. But somewhere along the way, they lost their way. And it was like the culture shifted and the toxicity creeped into the locker room. And he ain't lying. He ain't lying. And the perception of the company was different. And he thinks he knows why. Because they started to lean on yesterday's self-serving, superficial, cancerous superstars. And she mentions Sting. This isn't about Sting. Sting is none of those things. He is great. He is a role model employee. And Sting is awesome. The conversations of one of the greatest of all time. He actually envies the way people talk about him. Maybe they talk about them like that one day. However, it's about what Sting represents. Sting is the last of a dying breed, says Matt Jackson. The image of Sting is in line with what they wanted to do here in AEW. They wanted to change the world. So unfortunately for Sting, they will have to say goodbye to Sting, and everybody likes Sting. They would never ask anybody to do something that they weren't willing to do themselves. And Renee asks if that is an official call-out to Sting in his final match. But Nick Jackson and Matt Jackson don't answer the question because Nick Jackson has his phone. He shows it at Matt Jackson. Nicholas says that as EVPs, they will pull some strings, and they got a meeting to get to, and then they leave. So, what are my thoughts on this Young Bucks segment? This was pure perfection. I loved it. This is the edge that the Young Bucks have needed for a while now. The Young Bucks, again, and I've said this time and time again, ever since Brawl Out, ever since the fight, the incident that took place with CM Punk and the Elite, again, the Young Bucks were never the same. The Young Bucks were never the same. Pure negativity on all levels, from the fan base, from the dirt sheets about the Young Bucks. He said this, she said that. Meanwhile, the Young Bucks are literally staying quiet the entire time. Things were said about Hangman Page. Out of all the people throughout the entire situation that took place with CM Punk and the Elite, Hangman, even though he kind of started this whole beef, was the most professional out of everybody. People don't realize that, but he really was. But the Young Bucks were not the same. The Young Bucks were ice cold. They were not what they used to be. They were not what they used to be. Let's call it spade a spade. Let's state facts. The Young Bucks were not where they needed to be. All the negativity, everything. The Young Bucks were not what they needed. Were not what they were. Think about the prime years of the Young Bucks. When the Elite / Bullet Club was like hot. This was a couple of years before AEW. So 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. Those were the prime years of the Young Bucks. And then AEW started. Those were still the prime years. 2019, 2020, 2021. Those were awesome-ass years. And then, of course, starting in 2022, they were still great. But again, they started to fall off after Brawl Out. After Brawl Out happened, the Young Bucks were never the same. And unfortunately, the Brawl Out incident is never going to escape the minds of the Young Bucks. They can move on from it, but their reputation and their identity will forever be tarnished because of that incident. And I hate to say it because I'm a big Young Bucks fan too, but that is the God's honest truth. And, a lot of people are going to point the blame at the Young Bucks for the incident that took place, but at the end of the day, this was all CM Punk's fault. But realistically, even though you can say this was CM Punk's fault, all parties involved were at fault. All parties involved were at fault. But what they can do, since they're never going to escape that, and since, the Brawl Out incident and all of the rumors and speculation that were said about the Young Bucks, were written all over the dirt sheets, even though that's never going to escape the Young Bucks, one thing that they can do is embrace it. And that is exactly what they did in this segment right here. They embraced all the hate. And that is what you need to do. You need to embrace the hate that you're getting. Because if you don't embrace the hate that you are getting, if you come out and completely ignore everything, everybody's going to see through your BS. Everybody's going to see through your BS. The Young Bucks were like, you know what? F that. we're probably, everybody's going to give us flack regardless whenever we go out there. So, you know what? Let's become heels and just be dickhead heels. Let's just be pure assholes. What we're known for. Let's just be pure assholes that piss everybody off. And that is exactly what the Young Bucks did. They're embracing their EVP roles. These are great characters. And I think it's going to work out tremendously well for the Young Bucks. I think it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I'm really excited. This is exactly the edge that the Young Bucks needed in a long time. They needed this edge for a long time, and now I feel like we're on the verge of probably something special when it comes to the Young Bucks. And I know that sounds a little bit far-fetched, considering the Young Bucks get a shit ton of hate, albeit kind of unnecessary hate, but this is exactly what they've needed. And I think it's obvious that they are going to be Sting's last opponents. And in the video package that we saw later on, Darby Allin stated that they're going to go after the AEW Tag Team titles. And of course, March, Revolution is going to be in March. I assume they're probably going to win the tag team titles before Revolution, which then leads to the Young Bucks to take the AEW tag team titles. That's what I see happening, but I'm just thinking ahead of myself. But this is exactly what the Young Bucks needed. These new characters, no longer going by Matt and Nick Jackson. They are going by Matthew and Nicholas. Creative. I dig it. I like it. I know it's going to take a while to get used to, but this is exactly what the Young Bucks needed. Exactly what the Young Bucks needed. This was pure perfection on all levels. Moving on, we got Bullet Club Gold taking on, of course, the Gates of Agony of the Mogul Embassy for the ROH 6-man tag team titles. Bullet Club Gold is trying to go after the gold, but they really ain't going after the gold. They're going after the silver because that's the color of those ROH 6-man tag team titles. I don't know why we have two sets of trios titles, by the way. Why do we have two sets of trios titles? That makes absolutely no sense. Why do we have two sets of trios belts? I don't know. But overall, this was a pretty good match. Of course, Bullet Club Gold came out to a new theme song, and it wasn't, unfortunately, Many Men by 50 Cent. Of course, if you guys do not remember, it was almost a year ago. In a couple months, it's going to be a year to the day where the Guns faced off against FTR for the AEW Tag Team titles, and the Guns came out to Many Men by 50 Cent. They didn't come out to Many Men by 50 Cent, unfortunately, but they came out to a new theme, and I'm not going to lie, the new theme pretty, slaps. It's pretty good. But we get a series of dragon screws by Jay White. Colton Gunn makes the tag. Austin then makes the tag. We get repeated right hands by Austin on Brian Cage. We get a thrust kick by Brian Cage on Austin, and then we get the running uppercut in the corner, followed by an enziguri. And then they go for a German suplex. We get a backstabber by Khan on Austin, and then we get a running elbow drop by Toa Leona on Austin. Once we're back from commercial break, Colton makes the tag. Colton fights off the Mogul Embassy, or the Gates of Agony, and then we get a drop kick on Toa Leona. Toa's on the outside, and then we get a neck breaker by Colton Gunn. And then they plant Khan. After that, we get a cover into near fall. Colton then runs into a pounce, period, by Toa Leona. Shout out to Monty Brown. And then the Gates of Agony go for the triple powerbomb. And then after that, Khan hits the air raid crash, and then we get a cover into near fall when Bullet Club Gold makes the save. Toa runs towards the Timekeeper's area. Jay then sends Cage to the ring post, and then we get a backdrop by Colton Gunn. Jay White makes the tag, and then we get a series of chops by Jay White. Jay White goes for the Uranagi, and then we get the Discus Lariat by Brian Cage. And then, of course, Brian Cage gets hit with the 310 to Yuma by the Guns. And then we get a drop kick by Khan. And then Jay White tries to go for the Blade Runner, but then Prince Nana interferes. Khan drives his knees down on Jay White. We get a cover into near fall. Prince Nana comes in with one of the belts, but then Anthony Bowens of the Acclaimed is on the apron. We get a roll-up by Khan and a near fall, which then leads, and it opens the gate for Jay White to hit the Blade Runner. And we get a cover. Jay White gets the 1-2-3, and Bullet Club Gold, the Bang Bang Gang, win the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles. Overall, this was a pretty good match. I think it was expected that since, Bullet Club Gold wanted to go after all of the gold, they won the ROH 6-man tag team titles. Now, what are my thoughts on them winning the 6-man tag team titles? I think it's great. It's ridiculous that it's the ROH 6-man tag team titles, but since the Acclaimed were on the ramp at the end of that match, a lot of people were presuming, hey man, since the Acclaimed are the current AEW Trios champions, could we potentially see a unification match with the AEW and the ROH 6-man tag team titles to unify both trios belts. I do believe that is going to be the case because let's be honest with ourselves. There's no reason why we have two sets of trios titles because at the end of the day, all of the trios that are in AEW right now are under one roof, and that is not Ring of Honor. It is AEW. So the fact that we have two sets of trios titles, in my opinion, makes absolutely no sense. So a unification match with the Acclaimed and Bullet Club Gold, possibly at Revolution, is definitely the right way to go because, again, those ROH six-man tag titles are absolutely useless. And those trios titles, the AEW trios titles, should go straight to Bullet Club Gold because I feel like they are more deserving than the Acclaimed at this stage of the game. The Acclaimed, what are they doing with the trios titles? They're doing absolutely nothing with those belts. The trios division, in my opinion, I don't even know if the trios division is actually even a division right now, but like, what is the trios division in AEW? There's really nothing going on in the trios stage of the game in AEW right now. So hopefully, if Bullet Club Gold and the Acclaim will do a unification match, possibly at Revolution, I'm not mad about that whatsoever. Adam Cole and Wardlow backstage. He says, it's horrifying. Wardlow hasn't even scratched the surface, and he will go down as one of the most dominant wrestlers in AEW now that he is a part of the Undisputed Kingdom. And we will wait and see. Of course, he will run towards opponent after opponent until there is nothing left, which then will lead to him winning the AEW World Championship, which then he will hand over to him. Yeah, he said the same thing that he said 2 weeks ago and last week, so nothing new here. A random backstage segment. Nobody's going to give a shit. I'm sorry. Moving on. We got Deonna Purrazzo taking on Anna Jay. Deonna Purrazzo made her in-ring AEW debut last Saturday night on Collision. Deonna Purrazzo wrestled Anna Jay, and surprisingly, this is actually a pretty good match. I'm not really the biggest Anna Jay fan. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to, I'm going to be brutally honest. Anna Jay has improved tremendously in the ring, and it showed 100% in this match. Deonna Purrazzo is one of the best in-ring women's wrestlers right now, and she's really technical, as in this match. Both lock up. We get a roll-up by Deonna Purrazzo, and then we get a near fall. Anna Jay goes for the roll-up, and then we get a near fall. We get an uppercut in the arm of Anna Jay, or on the arm of Anna Jay. We get a stomp onto the arm of Anna, and then we get a cover and a near fall. We then get a neckbreaker by Anna Jay on the ropes. Once we're back from commercial break, we get repeated clotheslines by Deonna Purrazzo. And then we get a Russian leg sweep, and then we get a roll-up by Anna Jay. And then we get a near fall. We then get a pump kick by Deonna Purrazzo, and then we get a cover again and a kick out. Anna Jay goes for the backstabber, and then we get a cover and another kick out. Anna then applies the Queen Slayer, and then Deonna transitions into the cross arm breaker. Both women exchange strikes. Deonna then drops her down, and then she applies the submission. Anna then taps out, and Deonna Purrazzo gets the win. After that, Renee Paquette comes in the ring. Deonna says she doesn't know what has gotten into Toni Storm. And by the way, Toni Storm was in ringside on commentary. They've known each other for a long time. They were like sisters, but she has changed. But you know what? So have I. She might have been friends with Deonna, but she has never met the greatest technical women's wrestler, the Virtuosa. And then Toni Storm says that you're technical. And then she gets on the shoulders of Luther. And she's like, technically speaking, she's a tanned hag. My past is none of your concern. She wants to march into that ring and suck her in the box. And we need to go to commercial break, so I'm going to do my catchphrase, chin up, tits out, and watch for the shoe. And when she did that, watch for the shoe, the crowd followed along with her, so you can tell it's getting over. She throws her shoe across the ring, but then Deonna throws it back, and I believe she threw it at Mariah May. This was great. We're going to be seeing a future match between Deonna Purrazzo and Toni Storm. What could that be? I assume it's going to be maybe at Revolution. That is a great match to build upon. Toni Storm, man. I have to say this right here and right now. Toni Storm, week after week, with the character work that she has been doing, she is getting better and better week by week. Just better and better week by week. The crowd is starting to resonate with Toni Storm. Not only that, she's just pure entertaining on all levels. She's just absolutely hilarious. The whole shoe thing, that is going to get over real big time. And I think the match is going to be great between both her and Deonna Purrazzo. We got Private Party taking on Top Flight. Of course, this is going to be Private Party's first match back as a tag team, and this is the pure definition of tag team wrestling at its finest. This match wasn't that long, but it got the job done. Of course, Mark Quinn is back from injury, and I don't remember how long he was out, but he was out for a while. But nonetheless, this was great. So Mark Quinn goes to the top. He lands on his feet. Dante makes the tag. Both teams face off. Dante misses an arm drag when Mark Quinn pulls back. Quinn then targets the ankle of Dante Martin. Of course, Dante Martin had an ankle injury recently, but thankfully he came back. We get the head scissors by Mark Quinn, and then Cassidy ends up going for the Enziguri. We get a crossbody by Isaiah Cassidy, and then a cutter by Cassidy, and once we're back from commercial break, Top Flight are in control. Dante's on the outside. Queen tags in. He hits the ropes on Darius Martin, and then jumps over the top rope on Dante. And then he hits a senton on Darius, and then goes for a tornado on Dante. Once we're back into the ring, he goes for a beautiful 450 splash. We got a cover and a kickout. And then we get a jumping knee by Dante. Then Darius works on Mark Quinn, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Darius goes for the Pele kick, and then we get a drop kick by Mark Quinn. Then we get the pump up knee strike by Dante Martin, and then we get a kick by Cassidy, followed by a spinning Enziguri by Cassidy. He runs into a boot by Dante, and then Private Party end up going for the gin and juice. And then we get a roll up by Quinn, grabbing the ropes, in which that leads to Private Party to get the win. Great match. I'm happy that Private Party is back. Private Party absolutely deserve the spotlight. In my opinion, it's a freaking crime that Private Party were never AEW World Tag Team Champions. They've been in AEW since day one. Since 2019, they've been in AEW since day one. And they have never won the AEW World Tag Team Championships. It's the same thing as Santana and Ortiz. But Santana and Ortiz is kind of a different story because, yes, it's a damn shame that they haven't won the AEW Tag Team titles. It's not their fault. It's the booking. But at the end of the day, Santana and Ortiz are no longer a tag team. They are no longer a tag team because of legitimate beef within one another. So that's a different story. But Private Party, man, I pray to God that at some point they win the AEW Tag Team titles because they really, really, really deserve it. They went these past couple of years working with the Hardys. And I don't care what anybody says. Look, the Hardys are one of my favorite tag teams of all time. Jeff Hardy is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And I love Matt Hardy. But I have to be brutally honest. The Hardys are not where they need to be. And the Hardys are washed. I hate saying that. And I know that sounds disrespectful. I get it. I understand. And this is just coming out of love. But the Hardys are washed. The Hardys are washed. I think it's speaking highly. The reason why they're being booked on Rampage is because nobody cares about the Hardys. I'm sorry. In AEW, they have no sense of direction whatsoever. And honestly, I hate to be that guy, but rightfully so. That's all I'm going to say on the Hardys. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. We got Samoa Joe taking on Hook for the AEW World Championship. This match was commercial free. Commercial free. So we got to see the entire match in full. And thank God we got to see this entire match in full without any commercial breaks, because this match is the pure definition of perfection. Exactly. They did exactly what they needed to do in this main event. Samoa Joe looked dominant as the AEW World Champion, as he should, because he's Samoa fucking Joe. And Hook, even though he lost, he came out looking like an unstoppable son of a bitch. He came off looking like he basically came off looking like somebody that you just can't stop. He came off as somebody who that's not easy to beat. Hook looked strong in this match on all levels. He looked strong on all levels, and that is exactly what I loved about this match. Of course, his father Taz was on commentary. This was great. Samoa Joe, I mean, of course, there was a lot of talk about this match, comparing this match to the Jinder Mahal match. Let's be honest with ourselves. After this match was over, Samoa Joe versus Hook was 10 times better. Not even 10 times better. 20 times better. No. 100 times. No. 1,000,000 times better. 1,000,000 times better than Jinder Mahal and Seth Rollins. You could come on here and say that it was unprofessional, but that Tony Khan went on social media and said the things that he said. I totally understand that, and I agree. Tony Khan shouldn't have went on Twitter and spewed the stuff that he was saying on Twitter, because at the end of the day, you are a promoter and you need to be professional. From a fan's perspective, it's funny as hell, but from a professional standpoint, it's not. It's you need to be a professional, and Tony Khan looked really bad. But looking back, Tony Khan was 100% justified, because Hook throughout the majority of his career, he only lost one match. He was undefeated, and that's why he has this title match. What was the reason why we had a Jinder Mahal versus Seth Rollins match? Now, I didn't have a problem with it, but I wasn't excited about it. And a lot of people were excited over the fact that Jinder Mahal was going to get a title shot. And I'm like, bro, this match is so overhyped. So overhyped. And at the end of the day, who after the match, were you satisfied? I know a lot of people weren't satisfied. You know, it's not Jinder Mahal's or Seth Rollins' fault. It's just the match was all right. It was fine, but it was nothing to hype about. Nothing to hype about. I stated this in the Raw review. The match was nothing to hype about. But Samoa Joe and Hook was on a different level because Samoa Joe and Hook told a great story. If anything, in my opinion, I don't think this feud between Hook and Samoa Joe is over. I think we're going to be seeing a rematch in a couple of months further on down the line in the future. Do I think it's going to be for the AEW World Championship? No, I think it's going to be just a one-on-one match, if anything. And I just came through this analogy by somebody on social media, and this is very true. Hook is what Samoa Joe is basically Hook's Bam Bam Bigelow, if that makes any sense. Because Taz had crazy-ass matches with Bam Bam Bigelow. It's basically the same thing with Hook, which is such a good analogy. I didn't come up with it, but somebody on social media did. And that is such a good analogy. Samoa Joe is Hook's Bam Bam Bigelow. That's the perfect analogy when it comes to this match. Hook, and I said this last week, Hook is a guy that can easily be marketable, easily be a top guy in AEW. He's not ready for that position yet, but we got a taste of it. After this match, Hook is now a made man. He was already a made man before, but he is legitimately right now a made man after this match with Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe understood the objective, and he went straight forward with that objective, and he did a damn good job with it. And Hook looked amazing in this match. Amazing. But I'll give you guys my thoughts, or my full thoughts, about this match after I go through this entire match. All right, let's start with the match. Hook goes straight for the attack. Also, by the way, I completely forgot the small details in this match. You know how Hook makes his entrance? Of course, he comes out to the chairman's intent, and Hook kind of crosses his shoulders in the corner of the ring, and the camera pans to Hook. Well, when Samoa Joe came out, think about this. When Samoa Joe came out, they still had the camera panned on Hook with his shoulders in the corner. And Hook did not, and I repeat, Hook did not turn around and look at Samoa Joe. He was just in that position, even when Samoa Joe's music played, and the shot of that was freaking awesome. But moving on, we had Hook versus Samoa Joe for the AEW World Championship. Hook immediately, as soon as the bell rings, goes straight for the attack. We get repeated body shots by Hook. Hook gets taken to the outside. We get a chop by Joe. Joe sends him to the barricade, but then Hook goes to the top. He leaps into a forearm. Joe sends him back into the ring, but then Hook runs into a back elbow. Joe then goes for repeated right hands. We then get a chop by Joe in the corner, and then we get a back elbow. And then he ends up going for the enziguri by Joe in the corner, and then we get a chop to the back of Hook. We then get a running kick by Joe, and then he goes for the elbow drop. We get a cover end and near fall. Hook tries to go for the T-bone. That was the running story. He tried to go for the T-bone on Samoa Joe, but he just couldn't. Joe hits an elbow. We get an overhand chop by Hook, but we get a takedown by Hook. We get a running lariat by Hook. Hook then goes for a diving right hand on Joe on the outside. Hook tries to go for another T-bone, but Joe counters into the Uranagi. But this wasn't just any Uranagi. Joe hit the Uranagi on Joe, damn near landing on the back of his head on the announce table, and the entire announce table collapsed. It's not as strong as the announce tables in WWE. The AEW announce tables on the ringside area are way more cheaper. But what happens? Joe walks around the ring. He looks at Hook, and he's like, "Whoa, this is what you wanted, Hook. This is what you wanted." And what happens is Hook, being the badass that he is, flips off Samoa Joe, which pisses off Joe, and Joe powerbombs Hook on the apron. So he powerbombs Hook on the apron. Joe is in the ring. Hook is then getting checked by Doc Samson. Then, of course, Taz, being his father, who was on commentary, stands up. And, of course, being a father, Taz is concerned over his son, of course. Hook is getting checked out by Doc Samson. And Taz stands up. Hook gets up, but he finally gets back into the ring at the count of 9. We get a power slam by Joe, and we get a cover and a near fall. Joe picks up Hook, but Joe ends up hitting the Death Valley Driver. And then we get a cover and a kick out by Hook. Joe then takes Hook to the top. He goes for a chop. And then what happens? Joe goes for his signature muscle buster. Joe goes straight for the cover. We get a cover and a 1 count. Hook kicks out at 1. Hook kicks out at 1. That moment right there made Hook. I don't care what anybody says. And that was a talking point today on social media. Everybody was upset. There was fake outrage over that spot, which I don't know why. Out of all the things you complain about, you were complaining about a fake about a fake spot. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous on all levels. Ridiculous. Come on. Like, out of all the things that you're complaining about, you're complaining about that. Really? Come on, man. That spot right there made Hook. The kick out at 1 made Hook. We get a series of running lariats by Hook. So Hook is riling up the crowd. The crowd is going absolutely ballistic. We get a series of body shots by Hook. You know, those rights and lefts. And then finally, Hook hits the T-bone suplex. And then he applies the red rum. But quickly, Joe catches Hook and he reverses it into the coquina clutch. Then Joe chokes Hook and Joe retains the AEW World title. Joe retains the belt by choking out Hook. Hook did not tap out, but Hook faded. Of course, the referee lifted his arms 3 times. It was over. Hook then gets up after Joe leaves, and then he screams, "Is that all you got?" Joe comes back for another muscle buster, hits that muscle buster, and leaves once again. Doc Samson comes in and checks on Hook, but Hook gets up once again, and he wants more from Samoa Joe. Hangman Page comes out, but then Joe retreats. Hook leaves the ring. Hangman is in the ring. Swerve is in the front row. Hangman then calls Hook back into the ring, and he raises the arm of Hook, and then the show ends. Overall thoughts on this segment, or this main event match that we saw between Samoa Joe and Hook. This was probably, I don't care what anybody says, but this was one of the best AEW Dynamite main events that we have seen. You know, there's a lot of great main events that we have seen by AEW, especially on Dynamite, throughout its like 4 or 5 year history. But goddamn, this match was perfect. Perfect on all levels, bro. This match made everybody look good. Samoa Joe is now solidified as a dominant figure as the AEW champion. With this first title defense, Samoa Joe is now a more dominant figure than he already was. And now you have a guy like Hook, who right now is not going to be the AEW World Champion. He's not going to win the AEW World Championship anytime soon. So get it out of your minds. He's not going to win the AEW World Championship. I don't think right now he's ready for that position. And that is not necessarily a bad thing to say. But he got a taste of the spotlight in this match that he had with Samoa Joe. He got a taste of the spotlight in the match that he had with Samoa Joe. Hook is just getting started. This is going to be the beginning of the era, quote-unquote, of Hook. Of course, this match at the end of the day made Hook. It not only solidified Samoa Joe as a dominant figure, but it made Hook look strong. Even though Hook lost the match, the way and the nature of the story of the match in which Hook was immediately going straight for the attack on Joe, and he didn't give up against Samoa Joe. And after the match, even though he lost, he still called out Joe. Clearly, they're planning for Hook to do something greater. Overall, though, this match was perfect on all levels. You know, people were complaining about this match, but, bro, this was one of those matches where you just couldn't complain at all. I knew coming into this match that we were going to get a great match. Samoa Joe knew the objective going into this match. Samoa Joe knew the objective. And the objective of the match was to make Hook look like $1 million. And that is exactly what Samoa Joe did in this match. He made Hook into a made man. Holy shit, that feels like a mafia movie. I'm sorry. But he made Hook look like a made man. He made Hook into a made man. He made Hook into a much bigger star than he already is. Now, the testament of this is, what are they going to do with Hook now? Since Hook is coming off a match with Samoa Joe, I think it's obvious that they need to do something with Hook. They can't just thrust him back to having matches with Orange Cassidy and defending his FTW title in nothing matches. They can't do that at this stage of the game. They cannot do that. They just can't. They can't do that because, then you just completely would waste a potential investment that you have made in Hook. AEW right now needs to capitalize. And I mean this wholeheartedly. They need to capitalize on what they had done with Hook after the Samoa Joe match. Have Hook go after either an international title or a Continental Crown or heck, even a TNT championship. Have Hook go after one of those mid-card championships. And who's to say we could possibly get a rematch between both Hook and Samoa Joe? Because after this, I don't think this feud is over. Do I think Hook is going to be inserted in the rumored three-way match that we're going to be seeing at Revolution? Of course, Joe, Hangman, and Swerve. No, I don't think so. But would that be an issue? I don't know. It's weird. It's interesting. But at this stage of the game, Hook doesn't really belong in that conversation right now. But what I do see happening is a potential one-on-one rematch between Samoa Joe and Hook, but not for the AEW Championship. After Joe drops that AEW title, I do see a one-on-one match between Hook and Joe happening in the future. I do see a rematch happening further on down the line. But nonetheless, this match was everything that it needed to be. One of the best main events that AEW Dynamite has ever produced, in my opinion. But yeah, that was Samoa Joe versus Hook for the AEW World Championship. But yeah, that was my AEW Dynamite review from January 17th, 2024. Overall thoughts on this show. I thought this was a pretty damn good show. Much better than last week, in my opinion. And everything about this show was everything that it needed to be. Samoa Joe looked dominant as the AEW World Champion. Hook looked like a dominant figure, even losing that match. Swerve and Hangman, of course, having their eyes set on Samoa Joe's AEW World Championship. It's a lot of interesting things, man. The possibilities are endless, and from what it looks like, we're going to be seeing a three-way match at Revolution between Samoa Joe, Hangman Page, and Swerve Strickland. But yeah, that was my AEW Dynamite review, of course, right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Push that bell for notifications. Look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc channel in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.